Everyone, welcome. We're really excited today because we've teamed up again with Atlas Providers, so we'll have an expert panel here. The expert panel will kind of kick off some questions that are specific to their domains, and they'll give a little bit more of their background. So when we go around and do introductions, if you are on the expert panel, just let everyone know so that they have an idea. I hear we have an extra special expert. Just a couple quick announcements before we do introductions. Starting Block. We are working with Starting Block on hiring for 3 positions there. One is a startup team strategist role. We have the executive director and a director of operations. So if you're interested in exploring those, please reach out to Drew or I. We can get you some more information. For those of you who don't know, Starting Block is a project that's going up on East Washington Avenue. It's a building that will take 13 months from the time they break ground, which it sounds like a crane was over there, so we're getting closer. Woo! And
yep,
there it is. So they're in part with AmFam Ventures. They're also federally funded, so it's going to be a cool entrepreneurial spot here in the city. Any other announcements? That was easy.
Yes, short week.
Awesome. And we're already at Wednesday. So we're going to go around the room and do quick introductions. I'm Rachel Neal with Carrick's Consulting Group.
I'm Drew Corson with Carrick's Consulting Group and on the expert panel today.
I'm Monica Wingate with Digsite.
I'm Tripp Stroud Law Firm, also on the panel today.
I'm Eric Brown. I'm a business consultant, and I help in the areas of planning, marketing, and financing. I also work with Merlin Mentors.
Kurt Peterson, co-founder of 32 Auctions, a platform for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
My name is Diana Pastrana. I'm with M&M Office Interiors.
I'm Jordan Roberts. I do financial planning.
Steve Glad, the other co-founder of 32 Auctions.
Good morning, Julianne Selesky, Business Development Manager at the Madison Club.
I'm Mitch Duett. I'm with Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, and I focus on impact investing.
Lisa Woods. I'm a CMS Product Manager, Information Architect, and Web Strategist.
Scott Cole with Third Space.
Lindsay Holden with Country Financial.
Morning, Alex Ryan with Prairie Light Solar Energy Consulting Firm.
Katie Myers from Country Financial as well, and I specialize in helping small companies and startups with their employee benefit programs.
Dennis Barnum with Merlin Mentors.
Hi, I'm Susie Yonkel, Program Director for Merlin Mentors, and we do have openings for mentoring right now, so if it's something that might interest you, come find me and talk to me afterwards.
I'm Jesse Tyler, CEO and founder of MLR Consulting Group. We do Salesforce consulting.
I'm DP Knudten with Collaborator Creative. I creatively collaborate with individuals, companies on everything from freelance copywriting to nonfiction branding.
I'm Amy Gannon. I'm co-founder of Doyen, and we support women entrepreneurs and changing the ecosystem to be more inclusive.
Garrett Lee, founder of WHOA, which stands for We Help One Another, and co-founder of Mach 1 Health, which is Madison Area Care for the Homeless.
Hi, I'm Steve Sletton. I'm a consultant and here networking.
I'm Derek Kevler with Field 59. We're an online video platform for media companies.
Laurel Goshery, Customer Success at AkitaBox.
Lara Benzo, HR Manager at AkitaBox.
Morning, everybody. Nick Lombardino with Farwell and a co-founder of Atlas Providers.
I'm Ross Rickers with Cressa and one of the panelists today.
Yeah, and we'd also like to thank our sponsors. Old National Bank is sponsoring the Coffee from Crescendo through the end of the year. Really grateful. Field 59, Derek is back there live streaming, and the studio will be available on our YouTube channel. And thank you so much for the library for providing such a great space. So with that, we'll hand it over to Monica.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we got a great diverse group here. I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about Digsite. We are really about the concept of iterative insights for better business decisions. And I'm the co-founder and CEO of Digsite. My name is Monica Wingate. My background
is in marketing research. Basically, I spent my early days in my career at General Mills in Pillsbury, helping them do everything from develop new brands, new products, new ad campaigns, everything that that organization needed to understand from their consumers and get that to market. And as you all might have guessed, the world of market insights and getting to market has changed significantly over the past decade. And Digsite is really trying to enable companies to do something really important, which is to be agile. I'm sure that all of you in this room at some stage of the game have probably mentioned that or heard that your organization is either lean or agile, or that you should be more lean or agile, because what it comes down to today is that we need to move fast, right? The market's moving fast, consumers are moving fast, things are changing very quickly. And what that means is, in order to be successful in the marketplace with our products or services, we have to be responsive. Now, it's really hard to be responsive, to get something to the market fast, if your team isn't aligned about what to do, right? And so rapid alignment of your team about what you should be doing and how you should be acting is really important, and a ton of agile that we feel really strongly about. Now, how do you do that? One of the things that you need to get your team aligned quickly is you need processes that help them align and make decisions very fast. And that's where this idea of iteration and rapid iteration comes into play in helping companies get to market faster. Rather than building something and then finding out that it's a bad idea and having to go back and rework it, if you can learn as you go, right, you're going to get your team aligned and you're going to be making the right decisions fast. And of course, the last thing is getting consumer feedback and validation at every step along the way, which sounds really obvious and probably for all of us is like, yeah, I want to do that. But of course, the other side of it is, oh my God, that's really hard, right? And so that's the problem that we're solving, is it shouldn't be hard to get consumer feedback at every step of the way as you build your business. And so, you know, first off, before we talk about how you solve it, let's just talk about what are all those things where you should be getting consumer input. So at the very, very beginning, you should understand how your consumers or customers experience your brands or products, right? Now, sometimes you have data that tells you about this, either operational data, internal data, purchase data that helps you with that. And that often tells you what's going on, but it doesn't necessarily, it even can help you identify problems or opportunities. But it doesn't tell you necessarily now what, right? Why is this going on and what should I do about it? And so, you know, along a typical development cycle for a team, okay, and these are the processes that have been codified over the past 20 years, you want to generate some ideas, some solutions on how to solve these problems or get to a better spot to grow your business faster. You want to optimize ideas, concepts for you know, what you want to deliver, whether that's a product or a service. You want to understand how to position your brand in the marketplace, and you want to have your customers involved in understanding how what you do aligns with them, right? And you want to refine any kind of advertising, promotion activities, and certainly you could do that in market with A/B testing, and that's part of Agile, is to say, go experiment, right? But probably before you even get there, you still need to figure out what are you experimenting with? Like, what are the a couple ideas you want to start with, and do consumers or customers resonate with that? And so this cycle of development really should be, all of these touch points should be points where you're not just talking internally, but actually engaging with your customers or consumers to get feedback. And to be honest, a lot of the tools that we've had to do that, you know, and there's been a lot of jokes and cartoons, right, about focus groups. I remember seeing focus groups on The Simpsons, you know, and going, oh my God, this is my profession, right? But, you know, that's where this world of why started, right? Let's call people and have an interview. Let's go do a focus group. And you guys all know, this is hours of your time, it's travel expenses, it's dollars to outside consultants and moderators, it's not super efficient. And that's where digital tools are really coming, like Digsite, are really coming into play. So you want to be able to, first off, find people. Sometimes you might have them in your customer database, sometimes you don't, right? And so you need a way to quickly find people. Not something that takes weeks or a lot of money, but something that you can quickly find the right people. You want what I'll call longitudinal engagement, which is basically the idea that typically someone doesn't experience your brand. Their entire experience with your brand doesn't happen in a microsecond, right? It doesn't even happen in a 2-hour period of a focus group or a 1-hour meeting, or it's very hard to observe and tangibly understand your customers in an hour. And so if you could understand and basically co-create and engage with them over a period of, could be a day, could be 5 days, you have the opportunity to find out and learn a little bit more. So what are they doing? How are they seeking information? How are they purchasing? What's going on? What is their response to specific things that you're doing? So creating, rather than having to recruit every time you have a question, having those people at the ready to ask some questions, digital tools can help you to do. Real-time user experiences. People can take pictures and videos these days. Like everything that you can do on Facebook, think of that as the perfect market research tool, except for the fact that Facebook has a bunch of problems like data ownership, the confidentiality, the fact that there's no actual research tools embedded to help you do research. But that notion that consumers love about engaging in social media makes them enjoy engaging in digital tools to do market research as opposed to taking a survey or attending a focus group. And so that's, that idea of really tapping into social tools really is important. And then really this concept of on-demand optimization. So say you get some feedback and you say, oh my God, what if we did this or what if we did that? Well, rather than just asking yourself or debating in the team or not coming to consensus, you can take those 2 ideas back to that group and say, what do you think? Is this what you meant? And that kind of iteration creates an entirely different dynamic around being able to collect data. And at the end of the day, basically what digital tools can do is help your teams not just collaborate with each other like you do on Slack, but to collaborate with your customers or consumers as you build products and services. And so what Digsite has done is basically made the process of qualitative research turnkey. And what that means is that you can basically bring a group of consumers together. We can actually find those people for you. We find them directly on social media. So imagine, I'll give you some examples later, but imagine that you're Dannon and you want to find moms who buy yogurt. We can find those people on social media. If you're a travel company, you want to find people who've taken a flight in the last 30 days, we can find those people. You want to find people who've liked school clocks, we can find those people. It's really bizarre, but basically we know everything about you, or Facebook knows everything about you, right? And so does Instagram. As long as for the 70+% of the population who's engaged on a daily basis on Facebook, we know what you're doing, and we don't have to go out and randomly ask people, hey, have you used this? We can find people who have engaged with the product or service categories that you're engaged in. We can find small business owners. We can find people who have bought financial service products. We can find, those kinds of folks. Now, we probably can't find some people on social media, but we can find a lot of them. And we bring them into a social media type space that's private and secure, where you own the data, where you don't have to worry about anybody else seeing your information, and we give you basically a turnkey approach to engaging with them. And literally, we've developed what we call sprints, which is basically a set of activities that you would typically ask, so that you don't even have to build a discussion guide. You don't have to know how to be a market researcher. And so we allow you to get in the space, engage with consumers, ask them questions, ask them to share activities or things that are going on in their lives. And basically, you have that direct line. You have that lifeline to that set of consumers and customers. So I mentioned Dannon, and I'll tell you specifically a story for them. A lot of our customers are consumer products companies, although we work in a number of different industries. I'll show you some of that in a minute. But in Dannon's case, they had a problem. They knew that Greek yogurt is kind of taken over yogurt, right? We all kind of know that. And they had lots of data to tell them why people like Greek yogurt and why they're buying Oikos, which is a Dannon brand. But they had this flagship fruit on the bottom yogurt product, right? That they needed to reinvigorate. They needed to have a reason for it to belong on the shelves. And they had about a month to make some critical decisions in order to meet their timeline for launch. And in order to make those decisions, they wanted to get some consumer input, and they had about 2 weeks to get from here's our packaging, like here's the packaging we're going to do, right? Here's the positioning for the ad campaign, like here, ad agency, here's what you're going to do. They had 2 weeks. there isn't any focus group that typically can get done in that time frame. And so what we basically did for them is said, hey, we have 2 sprints that we can help you with. One is called a product concept sprint, and one is called a brand positioning sprint. And so what we did is basically use the product concept sprint, actually the packaging variation of that, to get them specific feedback on packaging. And in this case, really consumers literally drag pluses, minuses, and question marks onto the packaging variations, and were able to write comments about what they liked and disliked about the packaging options. And then Dannon could actually see for each specific area within this image what people liked and didn't like. Okay, and not just, yes, no, up, down, but why and what was going on. And then they had an opportunity to ask follow-up questions of the group. And through this activity, both from the packaging and from positioning, and engaging with consumers, I think they did kind of 4-day sprint and then another 2-day sprint. In that kind of 2-week period of time, they discovered 2 important things. One was that the positioning that they had in mind was good. I think they made some changes, they got some feedback, but generally speaking, they kind of were in the right space. But when it came to the packaging and the claim that they were putting on the packaging, consumers weren't so sure. There were some that really liked the claim and some that really didn't like the claim, and it was quite polarizing among the group. And so what that led them to do then is say, whoa, we actually want to go ahead and test, we want to quantitatively test a couple of these options before launch because the risk is too great for us to just go, right? And if they had gotten that feedback and it had been pretty consistent, I think they would have just gone right into market without doing that additional research. So this helped them in a very fast way determine were they moving the right direction, get feedback, get their team aligned to make some changes, and this is something that basically they can build into their process, right? And so that's really kind of where we see Digsite enabling brands to be successful and to be agile. One is the idea of a turnkey platform, something that they don't have to, have a ton of expertise in. And by the way, we have some customers that are agencies, and they look at this in the same way. Their agency can now work with their brands and create their own sprints and their own variations of this kind of turnkey qualitative for their clients. So they can do something much more quick and responsive for their clients as opposed to their traditional methods. Improve speed to market. Again, we have 1-day sprints that we can recruit people within 6 hours and have results the next day. And then we have longer form versions that recruit within 48 hours and get results in about a week. We can target, again, via social media. And this ability to basically iterate, to post questions, to learn as you go, at really a fraction of the cost of traditional focus groups and in-person research. So we have 2 core offerings. One is what I'll call a sprint, and this is really the idea of having this packaged solution that you can use, and then we bundle those into subscriptions so someone can actually get access to our platform. We actually have a panel that we build ongoing of consumers, and so what that means is that if they want to re-access their participants that they've used in the past, they can, or we can continue to profile and build out their audience so that they're at the ready, and then they can basically implement these sprints throughout the year for different various projects on their team.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Okay. Do any of the participants get paid for their help?
They do. We actually have an integration with Amazon gift cards, and they get rewards instantly in the product. And typically it's about a $5 reward for a 10-minute activity. And so typical sprint might be $20 that they'll get paid. So it's much less than a focus group, but it's much more than, say, the surveys where you get paid a few pennies. I mentioned the social fine recruiting. So here is just a quick kind of look at some of the customers that are using our platform at this point. We're working with, like I said, a lot of consumer products companies, some insurance, financial services, healthcare, some B2B. Really, it's kind of a pretty broad range, but I would say that because my background is in consumer products, that's been the bulk of the business that we're doing at this point. And this group, how can you help me? What do I need? What's going on our end? Well, first off, I just would love to see this group join in this iterative insights movement, this recognition that in order to be agile, we need to be iterating with our consumers. So please, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to our blog, get involved in some of the things that we're advocating for brands, for your clients or customers or colleagues. Please certainly, let us know if there's someone that you know that could use help, or if you're an agency that could use these services. We're happy to talk to you about that. We are hiring. Right now we have a biz dev position open, but we're always on the hunt for things like software developers. So if there's a need there, please let us know. And of course, investment opportunities. We are seeking growth capital. I'm happy to follow up separately on that if that's something of interest to you or someone in your network. And that's kind of it.
Bring our panelists up to the front seats.
Sure. Hi guys. Hey, how's it going? See ya. Good to see you. So that's pretty neat product. Who are your
expert panel over
yeah. Who are your competitors, and what's stopping agencies who already have these relationships with big brands in place? What's stopping them from building this thing themselves?
Absolutely. So right now, the competitive space kind of falls into two realms. One is, obviously kind of focus groups and in-person research. Business that's been around forever. People who are really experts at that really love it, and they're very reticent to want to shift to digital tools, at least in terms of like individual moderators and that kind of thing. But there is a cohort of them who've been kind of excited about this, and some of them are our customers that are using our platform. But they're not technical or technology people in any way, shape, or form. There are some larger strategic consulting firms, also customers of ours. Most of the time, in their case, they're focused on providing some kind of structured consulting practice and the ability to build this kind of technology while they could. They're more likely to buy it than to build it, to be honest. There are then direct competitors, say other platforms that do online qualitative research. We find that they're in a couple of different spaces. Most of them are what I'll call tools that are kind of almost built in the bulletin board era. And they serve market researchers and market research companies. And so their focus is kind of like, I'll give you an example with SurveyMonkey. So all of you might have a subscription to SurveyMonkey or some kind of survey platform, right? And you got ever given a blank sheet of paper and told, like, put questions in here, right? And that's what most of these platforms do. What we do that's different is we say, here's a product concept sprint. In other words, here's the questionnaire. It's already fleshed out for you. All you got to do is personalize it. And what that takes is it takes what I have in my brain, which is 25 years of market research experience. But most of those companies aren't market research companies. They're tech companies. And I think all the obstacles involved in doing that, even recruiting people, are things that are basically trade secrets within our company. And so we have two things going for us. One is we have to move really fast. And we're an agile company with an agile tool, so that's really helpful. But the other piece is obviously the know-how to get this done. And I think sometimes some of these companies that are consulting companies don't want to compete with themselves and don't want to get rid of their own services. But then they're starting to realize, hey, we need this agile kind of technology. And so this is kind of the movement that's taking place. But we're really kind of leading that charge, if that makes sense.
So you showed that slide of your client list or partial client list, and it's very impressive, by the way. And then the next slide was how we can help. So locally here in Madison, considering our networks and everything, these are all, a lot of those were awfully big, large companies. What's your sweet spot? What's too small of a company to work with? What is too big of a company to work with?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We are looking for companies that want to, basically do this kind of work, get this kind of iteration on a regular basis. So something that you might use, at least a half dozen or dozen times during a year. For consumer-based companies, so if you're a small company, for example, Terra's Way here is local.
Or a chocolate shop,
if they're producing and manufacturing something, this is the kind of investment they might want to make. But if you're a small business owner, you might not be ready for us yet, or we might not be ready for you yet. So I think we look at like 100 employees as kind of a good plus, as a good spot. But we have worked with some smaller companies who are more in the startup space, who are saying, hey, I need this feedback. I'm desperate for this feedback. And our one-day sprints are fairly affordable, and so it's possible that we can help. But that's definitely not the clients we're going out and seeking. I would say locally here we work with Sub-Zero. We work with several of those kind of size organizations here.
So you mentioned that most of your clients and your expertise has been in consumer products, but what other verticals do you think would be complementary to your services, or what are just natural fits that you're exploring?
Yeah, we actually are working with at least a half a dozen insurance companies because they're really in a place now where they need to be very agile about the services that they're offering, and they need to understand their customers, and so that's been a space where we've seen a lot. Also, hospitals, medical, healthcare, believe it or not, they're trying to provide better services, be more competitive, and so there's a lot in that space as well. So those are two areas where we've seen quite a bit of interest. And then the third is software and technology companies. So we do, I think you saw Sony Interactive on there. We've done some really interesting work in the software industry as well, because there is obviously opportunities to optimize products, positioning platforms, and so forth in the software space.
Great. Well, I think we'll open it up to the floor now.
I think you should approach the airlines.
Believe it or not, we have had one approach us, so that's not, and they do a lot of work with surveys and satisfaction work, and that's one of the challenges that industry faces is they know their problems, they don't always know how to solve them, and so they're looking at, how do they solve that, not only with their consumers, but even with their employees. I mean, there's a lot there when you think about having 80,000 people working for your company, about how do you brainstorm and solve solutions even within that space.
You start with not dragging people off the plane.
You need to focus down a little to figure that one out.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some things you don't need Digsite for. I think that one seems like it might be a little bit obvious, yeah.
A couple questions. One is, in your subscription, do you require that you're inserted in that process, or can somebody just rent your tools and use them?
Absolutely, great question. So we offer a subscription that is kind of a self-serve, where you can actually just have access to the platform and basically pull out our templates and do it completely yourself. That's typically agencies like that as a tool. We do have actually some manufacturers who have someone in-house doing that as well. And then there's opportunities if they want additional services or help from us in terms of structuring things, we can, and recruiting and all that, we can do that as well. So I would say the bulk of folks want our help at a minimum with recruiting, but a lot of folks are doing it themselves.
And the other thing I want to know is that I get the concept, and you're trying to pull information out of a base, but it seems to me you could just reverse the flow and push brand information out with your tools. Are you looking at that at all, or are you just saying that's not an area we're going to be in?
At this point, because we're focused on being a qualitative platform, which means that we recommend less than 100 people in our community spaces, I think that there are companies who are looking at doing that with, say, experts or influencers, but not in a mass scale. So there are platforms out there that's their business model, and they're called online community platforms, and they put thousands of people in these communities and they push stuff at them. And we're not at this point trying to compete with those platforms.
But you could do it if you wanted to.
Yes, we could if we wanted to. Yeah.
How brand skinnable is it for people who might be interested in using it as an engine or a white label engine that they want to put their branding on?
Yeah, it's 90%. I mean, everything that you can create, the background, the colors, the names, the branding, there's a watermark on there that says Digsite, but beyond that, a lot of, and what's really cool about Digsite is every single kind of community or group that you create can be skinned separately. So you can do things for different clients that have totally different skins, or even if you're a company, like one of the problems with online community platforms is usually there's one big lobby where everybody resides, but some companies have such diverse products that they don't want that, right? You don't want people who are buying chemicals talking to the people who are buying healthcare products or whatever, and so you want different communities that are skinned for those applications, and you can do that within Digsite the same way you skin a Facebook page or a LinkedIn profile. So it's not anything complicated that requires the developer or anything. It just takes you 2 minutes.
Yeah, and the other part of that question is security, because a lot of this is proprietary, trade secret, shades of vanilla.
I had no idea that I was going to need to learn security when I started the company, and that has been a huge focus for us. So not only are we, AWS, SOC 2 compliant, but we also deal with all the internal policies around HIPAA compliance and things like that for clients. So we have pretty extensive set of security policies in the company to address that for clients. Yeah.
So you're really focusing on the survey focus group side to give, like you said, really quick information to a consumer or to a company that's trying to get some quick information about what their consumer, what the people are thinking about it. But there's a lot of companies that do customer sentiment, customer analysis, or data analytics on right through Nielsen Catalina, Nielsen, Unmetric is another one I know, here at Network Insights.
Yep.
So it seems that you can give them this information, but the next thing that they're going to have to do is figure out how to push that information out. Not necessarily in experts and thousands of people, but all right, so are we going to do a coupon? Are we going to do an advertisement here? So is that stuff you guys are moving in, or you're partnering with, or are you basically saying we're going to give you this information and then you have to figure out how to get what you've learned from us out into the ears of the public when you do the change, right? So for Dannon or whatever,
right,
whatever rebranding they did, it's one thing to rebrand, but it's another thing to show
right,
that
it
out.
depends on who's producing that, who's making that decision or producing that. So for example, we work with a company called Acosta. They're about $1 billion brand, and they do things like that. And so they actually use Digsite as a tool with their customers because that's the service offering, the consulting practice that they have. And so we see us enabling those kinds of service providers to help. But a company like Dannon makes a lot of those determinations internally, and so they use a lot of the social data and Catalina data and all that to help them understand what the problems are. They use Digsite to optimize the concepts, and then they'll go back to Catalina and experiment. And so it becomes just an iterative process for them internally, if that makes sense.
One of the things I like about your model is the ability to very quickly A/B test.
Yep.
Especially for things like packaging or product concept, kind of the soft stuff that you just want that, what's your reaction to?
Right.
I've been on the other side of the glass in a lot of focus groups, and I've learned to hate them. To be honest, I'm telling you what my bias is, because I've seen focus groups go one way until the focus group bully drives it a totally different way. I'm interested in this or intrigued by it because of what I think is the possibility of getting really good candor on a peer-to-peer basis or a person-to-person
Boy,
basis.
did you hit the nail on the head. It's really fascinating on two fronts. One is the candor. I mean, we had, one of our customers put up some positioning ideas for kind of a luxury product. And, they got people to mark them up and talk about it and all that. And then kind of at the end of that, there were just general conversation that happened kind of after that. And someone said, was it just me, or did you all feel a little bit put down by these concepts? And then this whole kind of follow-up conversation ensued among the group, right, organically, about what do they really feel? Where's that line that you cross in luxury brands and saying that I'm just self-centered bastard, and I'm not that person. I just happen to really care about this product category, and I show it off to my friends because it's something I love, right, that I really care about. And so those kinds of insights come out, but it's also how our platform is built. So when you get in a focus group facility, everybody hears everybody else's responses, but within Digsite, we post an activity, and you answer, and then you submit, and once you've submitted, then you get to see everybody else's answers. And so it gives you a chance to answer honestly before engaging in the discussion, and that really kind of takes the bias out of the equation. And we also have ways to randomize things and things like that and sequence them in particular ways that really helps all the things that you can't unbias in a focus group, you can kind of try to unbias within Digsite. And then as you said, there's that sense of anonymity. I feel really safe. I'm not trying to please you in a focus group facility. And it's a lot of moderators talk about how they have to read body language, and they're right, they do, because of the immense social desirability bias. And in fact, when I was in consulting before I did all this stuff, I remember I would always listen for the volume in the room. Because if people were talking loud, it meant there was some excitement. But if everyone's like, yeah, that's a good idea, I might take that camping. You kind of know, right? But when you're in your living room or on your couch or in your car and you're responding to this, you're going to go, no, wouldn't use that, right? And you don't have any sense of remorse about it. You're just giving feedback, because that's what we do in social. We just give feedback, fairly honest and candid feedback. So absolutely.
The way you described the Dannon packaging situation, it sounded like there was an element of urgency on their part.
Yep.
Do you find that that's more common than not, that clients of yours are they're pressed for time, so they opt for the more agile approach, or?
Time is critical, and it was interesting because, sometimes you'll say to somebody, well, I know you have that urgent, but you should have thought of that a month ago, right? That's great, but that's not the reality of what happens in our companies, right? Something changes in the market, the competitor launches something, there's a production or a cost issue with a part or component, that changes the pricing. There's all sorts of things that happen every day, and so that's the agile world that we're in, and so of course there's a sense of urgency, and I think there's still the market research industry is still trying to figure out how to respond to that, other than we'll just do a quick survey. Well, if you want to know why, that isn't going to help you. And so we're really trying to focus on that why, and and what if, and now what kind of questions, and how to answer those, as opposed to just the what, right? Yeah.
I just wanted to say I used Digsite because I answered one of them. There was a LinkedIn sponsored ad, and I qualified, and it was a really
no way.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is perfect timing, because it was yesterday. It popped up in my LinkedIn feed, and I was like, okay, it sounded like I was intrigued, so I clicked it, and then it had me answer like a couple questions. It was super easy to sign up. It didn't require like a lot of clicking or inputting information and waiting, and then I took the survey and answered some questions, and then got a $10 Amazon gift card. And so it was a really great experience.
Awesome.
And this is a question for both of you, is gamification, poured into this, folded into it, so it keeps the user engaged and moving forward and not dropping off?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have some tools mainly that whiteboarding tool, that are very tactile, that allow you to drag and drop. Some of it is more just a straight discussion, conversation oriented, or take pictures or video. But we actually have some tools that are in development now that are based on things like Solitaire or Mad Libs or things like that make the engagement really fun. And so that's definitely a part of what we're doing. It's not kind of in the cheesy kind of realm, but more in a very functional kind of way.
I felt my topic was employee benefits.
And so it was like really straightforward, and it was simple, and I answered a couple questions about like benefits that I would want to offer my employees, what do I think is important, and then was able to submit it. And it was a clean interface, easy to look at. Yeah.
But are you guys just like with the consumers or whoever your customer is, just saying there's a certain amount of people we're not going to address, and so, for example, if you're talking about something like canes that are driven towards 80-year-olds that may or may not be on your site, are you just saying this isn't for us, and you've just kind of said no, or are you trying to find new ways to get those? Because there's a certain amount of people that just
right. So there's a couple of criteria that we look at. One is we actually are able to tell how much of this population is in Facebook. We don't necessarily, or Instagram, we don't necessarily, or LinkedIn. We don't necessarily need to know that there's hundreds of thousands of them, but there needs to be thousands of them, right? Or even tens of thousands. To feel really comfortable, we're gonna be able to quickly find those folks. In some cases, though, there's reasons that they might not be a good fit. So one example would be doctors. I've not yet said yes to recruiting doctors. That doesn't mean that we might not pursue it at some point, but at this point I'm a little bit concerned about their ability to engage and their time and all of that. It might work fine, but there are some other folks that are maybe they're not online. We actually did a project with construction workers and contractors. Day and days a week would be, and we needed to basically build the activities around that. So there are some cases where that's the case. When you talk about the elderly, if you're talking about people in their 72 or something like that, but it's not like they're not online, you have to be just a little bit careful about the kinds of activities you ask them to do. So maybe don't ask them to record a video and upload it, or expect that maybe some of them might have some technical issues doing a little bit more sophisticated things. But for the most part, there's not a lot of audiences that we can't find B2B companies, is if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, and they're not exhibiting that behavior on social media.
think we have time for one more.
All right, yeah, sorry, I think you,
You could build an informative tool in the future for market trends or product design. Like these features for this demographic work really, really well.
that's a great question. We've done a couple of things around data aggregation. One is that we have an integration with a tool called Qualtrics that is basically a survey platform that allows you to actually embed micro-surveys within Digsite. And so in that case, basically that if you want to do, say, a Digsite every week or a Digsite every month, but there's certain information you want to aggregate, we put that Qualtrics task kind of in Digsite, and then that gets aggregated into a single place. We don't have that built in the platform broadly right now. What we see more often is more like in the case of Sub-Zero, who uses Digsite for all their field trials. They obviously keep they have a standardized approach and they keep all of these things so they can actually see from one field trial to another what the differences are in the results that they're getting. So they're able to basically look at and make those comparisons. And we definitely see that as an opportunity ongoing. While qualitative data isn't survey data, I think there is still an opportunity to do that kind of aggregation, and then also on our part to do trend kind of research. So we've done research on millennials that we've kind of published on our site and things like that, just to help provide general information. I think that's something that we're interested in, continuing to do for customers or just for the market in general, to provide more of that qualitative feedback as opposed to just the numbers and metrics.
So we got one more because of 1 million cups alumnus.
Sure.
Scott Cole.
All right.
Monica, I think you said at the beginning, Digsite helps get you closer to the customer experience, but surveys are actually often after the fact, or you're relying on people to recall, or, oh, what was that yogurt really good? Did I really like it? Did I like it? So memories are faulty and so forth. So how does Digsite bring the consumer, and how do you capture them in the moment and get kind of that rich customer experience, and then get it into your system?
Yeah.
I mean, you said, oh, they can be on their couch or whatever, but you almost want them when they're eating that yogurt to suddenly be like, oh, now Digsite's asking me how's my experience.
So we actually, recruit people specifically for those scenarios. So we say to them, hey, next time you go to the grocery store, we want you to take a photo journal basically of that experience and record some of those interactions, and they're able to do that. We're able to put stuff out at a particular time, and at some point in the future we'll probably be able to put it based on a geolocation, but at this point it's really time-based or recollection-based. But they have their phone, they can record things as they go, and so we basically recruit them with the expectation that they'll do something, or asking them to go do something. Go visit this website, and then do these things. And then come back and we'll have some screenshots for you, and we want you to mark up and tell us some specific things about that. Great.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you, Field 59, Old National Bank, Ross, Trip, Atlas Providers, Chauvin, and all of you. Please keep coming back. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Good trip.